Well, good morning, everybody. We're Joyful Noise, and we're going to play 3 songs this morning to get us all warmed up for worship. So we encourage you, should you want to participate, by clapping your hands, by rising and moving around a little bit. That's kind of what it's all about. So we're doing 3 of our well-known hymns this morning, so please feel free to join in as you can. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. I'm on my way to Freedom Land. I'm on my way to Freedom Land. I'm on my way to Freedom Land. I'm on my way, great God, I'm on my way. I asked my sister, come and go with me. I asked my sister, come and go with me. I asked my sister, come and go with me. I'm on my way, great God. Play it for us, Johnny. Come and go with me. I asked my brother, come and go with me. I asked my brother, come and go with me. On my way, great God, I'm on my way. If they say no, I go anyhow. If they say no, I go anyhow. If they say no, I go anyhow. I'm on my way, great God, I'm on my way. Sing along if you can. On my way to Freedom Land. I won't turn back, sorry. On my way, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, great God. Let's do that one more time. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back. I'm on my way, and I won't turn back. All right, just getting warmed up this morning. All right. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. All right, it's okay to put your hands together, sing along. This is celebration worship we have this morning. Here we go. Well, every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Every time I feel the Spirit moving in my heart, I will pray. Upon the mountain, when right. So this next one we're going to sing is We Shall Not Be Moved. So here we go. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Play it around one time. We're at the top. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved, just like a tree stand beside the water. We shall not be moved. No, small behind. No, small behind. Struggle, we shall not be just like a tree that's standing by the water. We shall not be. Play for it, Johnny. Just like a tree that stands beside the water. We shall not, one more time. We shall not be moved. We shall not be moved, just like a tree that stands beside the water. Shall not be moved.
Amen. Good morning, everyone. My name is Reverend Teresa Ninan Soto. I go by Pastor Ninan. And I am really grateful to welcome the Secretary of our Board of Trustees, Marilyn McMahon, to lead us in an acknowledgement of Indigenous lands and the beginning of our service. Thank you, Marilyn.
Good morning, everyone. Oops, take this off while I speak. Well, welcome to church this morning. I'm Marilyn McMahon from the Board of Trustees, and I'll begin with this land acknowledgement. We acknowledge the land and the peoples who belong to this land, the Muwekma Ohlone peoples. Our church, our homes, and our institutions are occupying their lands, ancestral and current. We unconceal together that the lands were stolen from the Ohlone peoples, who have an ancestral relationship for millennia, continuous to the present day, with this land, the plants, the animals, and the water. Ohlone people are still here. We also recognize that the Ohlone ancestors, in spirit and of the land, are present. In solidarity with all Indigenous people and their right to self-determination and justice, we commit to working toward accountability of the theft, dispossession, and resulting trauma Native peoples continue to face. We commit to being active partners towards the healing of the intergenerational trauma which persists to this day. Amen. So may we live. And now a few announcements. First, there will be listening circles after the service. It'll begin today 30 minutes after the end of the service, presented by the Committee on Well-Being of Shared Ministry. They invite you to a listening circle where they will begin to share and reflect on the information from the answers to the worship survey. The listening circle will be in the program room on the second floor and also on Zoom. Stewardship season has begun because we are the church, and now is the time. Members, friends, and newcomers should have received emails inviting you along. If you haven't seen them, check your spam folder or search for email from stewardship@uuoakland.org. If you have yet to sign up for a small group gathering to connect with old and new friends, to share what has inspired gratitude, share your longings for our future, and learn about church financial and service needs, please look for that email. It contains a sign-up link, or you can check in at the stewardship table in Wente Hall after service. Gatherings are happening in congregants' homes, on Zoom, and here at church on Sundays. The next one after church will be next Sunday on the third floor at 11:45. Snacks will be served. And if you prefer to pledge without attending a gathering, feel free to find the electronic pledge card link along with other helpful materials in the email or in Chalice Chatter or on the church website stewardship page. Stewardship team members include David Rude, Jody Matthews, Dan Wright, and Rinda Bartley. Will you please stand? Thank you, stewardship team. You can see any of those team members after church with questions or send an email to stewardship@uuoakland.org. And ogres, goblins, ghosties, and the just plain weird of all ages are invited to our Halloween festival on Sunday, October 30th. It takes place immediately following worship in the Star King Room. There will be music, munchies, games, prizes, and a haunted hall with its very own phantom. So bring your costumes, screams, cackles, and evil laughs to our festive celebration. To volunteer or to help out.
Practicing already.
To volunteer or to help out with the Halloween festival, contact Jeff Melcher at familyministry@uuoakland.org. Thanks so much.
Can I add a footnote? The footnote is this. For those of you who don't remember or haven't been around, one of the things about Halloween is that it was often really festive. And the junior high students would support and foster and celebrate with the younger students. And there was a lot of collaboration. And it's really moving to remember. But you know what else is moving? When you show up that day to rebuild the idea that this community is for each person, including the smaller people. So I want to really underscore that and just hold it tenderly and with joy that we get to do it again. Okay, that's all. We'll start with the peace candle today. Each week we light a candle to observe the places in the world that need our commitment to peace. Today we light it with the words of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said, "Peace is not merely a distant goal that we seek, but a means by which we arrive at that goal." And the Black Lives Matter candle. We light a candle each week in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement. This week we light it with the words of the first African American Supreme Court Justice, Thurgood Marshall. In recognizing the humanity of our fellow beings, we pay ourselves the highest tribute.
Did you like to say that?
Yeah.
Okay. So we now invite you to read the words on the screen in joining the lighting of the Black Lives Matter candle. In recognition of the humanity of our fellow beings, we pay ourselves the highest tribute. Together we say, Black Lives Matter. And next we light our traditional chalice, and I invite you to join in the symbol hands. If you follow along, you'll get it eventually. Just try it a couple times. We light this chalice, symbol of Unitarian Universalism. May it remind us of the divine spark in all of creation, the power of love to heal what is broken, and to be grateful for life's blessings each day.
Rabbi Harold Kushner, through a metaphor of the Garden of Eden, offers a perspective for relationship, connection, and repair this way. In the beginning, in the infancy of the human race, as in the infancy of an individual human being, life was simple. Then we ate of the fruit of that tree and we gained the knowledge that some things are good and other things are bad. We learned how painfully complex life could be. But in the end, if we are brave enough to love, if we are strong enough to forgive, if we are generous enough to rejoice in another's happiness, and if we are wise enough to know that there is enough love to go around for us all, then we can achieve a fulfillment that no other living creature will ever know. We can re-enter paradise. Please join me in reading the words you'll see on the screen, the invitation our community extends each week. Come, let us worship together. Now comes the moment in our service when we greet one another in the spirit of community and the bond of fellowship. As we're still in pandemic conditions, please be aware of safe space and consent to touch one another. Good morning, congregation. Let's greet one another.
Thank you for greeting each other.
You look beautiful
Welcome you back
today.
to your chairs.
Yeah, come on up. We have sharing to offer.
My name is Jeffrey Melcher. I'm the Director of Religious Education.
Be a little louder.
Good morning. I've been invited to speak a little bit about the Youth Insight program for a few minutes. I'm going to time myself. So the title is Youth Insight, insight into youth. And
All the stuff that's happening.
stuff is happening in the larger world and right here. And I realized I could probably do a whole sermon. But many of you have realized and have heard that the pandemic has been very tough for youth and teens and their social dynamics. But we have the opportunity and the ability to provide sanctuary for youth and really create a spiritually expansive environment. The author, Lisa Miller, in The Spiritual Child, talks specifically about the brain development of youth, and that's when spiritual experiences really start happening and a place is needed for discernment and interpreting those. So one of the things we're doing is just regathering, getting together, and at the district level and at the local level. So we've had a regional youth summit in Walnut Creek, and Pastor Ninan and I went, and Cade and Sadie and Avery went, right. So we went, and one of the main things that we got from that, with these congregations coming together, is the real need for the congregations to be working together. We're going to take down those silo walls, which you've heard about, UU congregations trying to be so insular, that for youth programming especially is coming together. So last Saturday, we had a Dungeons & Dragons 101, and we had 9 complete newbies show up. We had 23 people showed up from 6 different congregations. So it was a success. It was a success. It was a lot of work, but it was definitely worth it. And to build on this energy, I'd like to do it again. And maybe expand it so that there's also a board game room for people of all ages. They don't want to do D&D, but maybe they want to do some other board games. And I'm in conversation with the men's group who wanted to do some service project. And then one of the neighbors, one of the volunteers from the African American community came by last Saturday and said, we would like to coordinate some neighborhood cleanup. I'm like, wow, let's do this, right? So I would love to have some help coordinating, pulling some of these things together, and as a way of relaunching, once again, we just keep doing it. We're going to keep doing it day after day. So see me afterwards, and we're looking at so many possibilities. I can't even mention them all. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jeff. One thing that Jeff can share with you when you talk to him is a specific connection between Dungeons & Dragons and faith development, which is to say, as you assemble a character, you think about what they're like, what their character is like, and that's part of the story that you're building. So there's more there than you can fit into those couple minutes, and I encourage you to really have that conversation. Thank you, Jeff. Now we are going to sing together, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In.
Good morning. I'm Susan Kiter. It's my pleasure to be at the piano and singing with you this morning. I invite you to rise in body and or spirit. The words are going to be up on the screen, and I will play it first so you can hear it, and then I invite you to sing along. Even if you don't know it, you'll grab onto it fairly quickly.
Listening meeting is now in Starcade.
Okay.
Stewardship cancels.
Here we go. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. You sound great. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Don't be afraid of some change. Don't be afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Last one. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in.
Can we have a learning moment before our learning moment? Would that be okay? Can I make sure you get your money's worth this morning? Packing it in. Okay, here's what I want to let you know. So when we sing, open your ears to this song, it really predicates community participation on how these work. So one way I've sung it is to say, open your heart to this song. So then you're saying heart twice, but you're not implicating how people's ears work. And here's the thing. I've worked really hard on that conversation in the world. And so sometimes what people will say is, well, it doesn't hurt my feelings. It doesn't hurt my feelings. If you could come up to the pulpit right now and look deep in my eyes, you would see that my feelings are not hurt either. That is not the point, right? But how we talk about people's ears matters. And so we don't have to say we're going to make that change, but I would like to talk about that change, right? So if you have questions about that idea, or you want to hear more about it, or read some of the things that I've written, you can email me, and we can do that up. Does that sound all right? All right. So that was our learning moment before our learning moment, and now the learning moment. Today, I want to introduce you to a story of open hearts. Sometimes when we talk about a story, it fits into a larger picture, like a puzzle piece. This is not an exact model for relationship repair or forgiveness. It will, however, demonstrate one way we can meet one another, even when things are not perfect. This part of the service often expands to include a variety of levels of lived experience and imagination. If your experience or understanding exceeds the level of the story, please assume that that part of the story is meant specifically for someone with less experience than you. Let's watch this 2-minute video on the restaurant of mistaken orders.
Dementia is so widely misunderstood. People believe you can't do anything for yourself, and the condition will often mean complete isolation from society. We want to change society to become more caring and easygoing, so dementia or no dementia, we can live together in harmony. There are 35 million dementia patients worldwide, and it is set to increase to 115 million by 2050.
We opened a limited-period pop-up restaurant where all the waiting staff are dementia patients. And what did we call ourselves?
Restaurant of Mistaken Orders. It isn't. Oops. Sorry, dear. Oh, sorry, that wasn't right. Oh no, it was. I heard what you said, but I just can't remember, you see.
Here's your order. What was this again? Our restaurant is stylish and serves great food. If your order was mistaken, you can shrug it off with a smile and enjoy what comes your way anyway. It's a place to foster this kind of open-minded caring, freedom, and communication. The naming allowed our customers to enter with an open mind. They expected mistakes, so they were okay with it. It created an air of easygoing acceptance.
There were some mistakes, but it was so warm-hearted, you just laughed it off.
I think there should be more places like this. Dementia patients are just like you and me. So why can't we develop relationships with them?
Companies have taken notice and want to participate.
I'm convinced that if our message and actions become more mainstream, society will become more tolerant and open.
37% of orders were mistaken, but 99% of customers said they were happy. I felt that this restaurant could help promote understanding of dementia. 95% agreed.
In a way, the idea of coming together in care and celebration, even when we know things won't be perfect, is the resonant element. But when the context includes mistakes that are harm, the approach includes additional reflection for healing. As the learning unfolds today, we'll consider what that reflection is. Barna Group did some research around forgiveness with practicing Christians. So let's listen to these numbers. 55% have received unconditional forgiveness from someone. 38% have not received unconditional forgiveness. 27% know someone they don't want to forgive. 23% know someone they can't forgive. 15% have not offered unconditional forgiveness. And yet, in the way of holding multiple truths with equanimity, it is essential for me to say to you and for you to consider that forgiveness in no way is something compulsory or automatic. Barna Group offers that pastors are half as likely as their congregations to say that real forgiveness requires forgetting. Pastors are also more likely than the people in the pews to say it's about restoring a relationship, but not forgetting. And I could tell you what I think of all of that, but I would rather extend to you a larger invitation by which you are invited, without an expectation of forgiveness being required, into the possibility that developing the muscle of forgiveness is part of what your call to grow into your best self. According to white British comparative religion scholar Karen Armstrong, religion is not about accepting 20 impossible propositions before breakfast, but about doing things that change you. It is a moral aesthetic, an ethical alchemy. If you behave in a certain way, you will be transformed. The myths and laws of religion are not true because they conform to some metaphysical, scientific, or historical reality, but because they are life-enhancing. They tell you how human nature functions, but you will not discover their truth unless you apply these myths and doctrines to your own life and put them into practice. So may we live. If you have a student ready to go to class, now would be a good time. And this morning, I am grateful to welcome Ron Weisberg to share with us. One of the things lots of us are curious about is the spiritual influences of people in our community. And that's what Ron has agreed to share with us today, what his spiritual and ethical influences are. Thank you so much, Ron. Yeah. We welcome you. Give Ron a little wave. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, there you go.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ron. Could somebody say hi, Ron? Getting ready for this, I realized that I was a lot more anxious and afraid than I expected to be. Can somebody say, I understand?
I understand.
Yeah. Yeah, those two words, I understand, are in the background of what I want to share with you. It finally dawned on me this morning why I was so scared, and what I have to share with you. I wrote out yesterday, but it reorganized itself in my head this morning. I was approaching sharing with you from a place of more vulnerability and less of my usual competent rhetorical flourishes that I have used in the past. And that was scary, is scary. Vulnerability, learning how to be vulnerable, has been at the center of my spiritual journey at least the last 20 years. Earlier in life, I pretty much dealt with life with competence, with leading with looking good and getting things done and accomplishing things. And fear, anxiety, grief were really hard emotions for me, and I didn't know how to express them, didn't know how to deal with them. About 20 years ago, I got into 12-step and have been learning in 12-step how to express those emotions and how to feel those emotions. And all that got accelerated a couple of years ago when I moved into senior housing, because one of the things that I hadn't faced in life was getting older. And here I was in senior housing, and I had to admit to myself that I was getting older. Why would I be in senior housing? That was a tough one, because I always looked younger, and people would say, oh, you look 10 years younger. So beginning to share in 12-step about the reality of getting older led to looking more broadly at the reality of my life, the mistakes I had made, grief over lost opportunities, sadnesses. And gradually I learned to be more comfortable, because in 12-step, nobody gives you advice, nobody tells you you're wrong. People just silently listen, and then they share their version of the same story you're telling. And it's just has been remarkable for me, because I got the feeling that I wasn't alone. I was part of the human family. So yeah, here's where speaking extemporaneously is very vulnerable. I think I want to finish up with a story that brings forward those two words that I asked you to say, I understand. I had a phone conversation with a friend a couple of weeks ago, and she was lamenting living alone. She told me, she said, I live alone, I sleep alone, I shop alone, I eat alone, I do everything alone. And she went on with that sadness for quite a while. And finally, I said, I understand, because I do. And she started to sob. And the sobbing went on for a good 30 seconds. And then she said, your words made me feel compassion for myself. And so that's what I want to leave you with. The experience of being understood by someone else has created compassion in me for all the things that I feel I've done wrong in life, and a great measure of self-acceptance. Thank you for letting me share.
So beautiful. If you feel it, would you reply to Ron, we understand? We understand. We understand. Such gratitude this morning. Now we'll be able to sing, Break Not the Circle of Enabling Love. Now look, maybe you're like me, and you don't want to be an enabler. But this is not what that means. This is talking about the power to fulfill your destiny. It's a little different. All right, are you ready? All right, we can do it.
Thank you for clarifying that, Pastor Ninan. That was one of the words that I had problems with in this hymn.
Right? Like, no, we're not talking about that.
I know. Evidently, this hymn is not sung that frequently, so I don't know it very well, and I make a lot of mistakes when I play it on the piano, even though I've practiced. So even if you don't know this hymn, I invite you, you can sing along, even though you don't know it very well, or you can just sit there and let it bathe over you and just enjoy it as is. All is good, and all is well. I'm going to play it through once, and then what the heck, let's give it a try.
Good try. Thank you, and thank you, Susan. However hard may be the stretch of road on which we are journeying, we are not alone, but the object of another's concern and caring. We want to know this in an awareness sufficient to hold us against ultimate fear and panic. It is precisely at this point of awareness that life becomes personal and we become persons. And the way is clear for us to experience our own spirits. Now is the time in our service when we lift those in our circle of concern into the loving embrace of our larger community. Let us speak the names, just a word or two, of those we wish to memorialize, celebrate, or remember today. An embracing meditation. Please begin with a name or two into the room. For the names that have been spoken, and for all those that remain in the silent sanctuary of our hearts, who have for the embrace of this beloved community, will you join me in sharing the words of blessing on the screen? We hold them in our care. Amen. Will you join me in a moment of prayer or meditation? Sources of rain and radiance, sources of courage and compassion, keep watch with those who work or wait or weep this day. May the suffering be soothed. May the weary find rest. May the sick be tended. May the dying and those who love them find peace. May the joyous be shielded. May the homeless be sheltered. And may all of us know we are wrapped in a love that surrounds us always, a web that connects us to all that exists. For all these things we give thanks and say, Amen. It was Yoko Ono who said, "Take forgiveness slowly. Don't blame yourself for being slow. Peace will come." And I'm so grateful that we get to demonstrate that particular thing through our next song. May I be the light in you.
So you have a chance to get the hang of it, and I hope that you will join in singing. May I be light in you. May you be light in me. Into our hearts, into our souls, let love abide. May I be love in you. May you be love in me. From this place
did you think of that song? I'm going to sing it again, right? We'll keep it in the rotation. I have a word for you. Don't blame yourself for being slow. Peace will come. But what about it? The first element is always a harm that happens. One person harms another. A repair begins when we tell the truth about our mistake or about the ways our impacts were different than our intentions. We must be able to imagine that we can make things better for one another, and that actions to make amends are the way we move forward. I want to tell you about a community in which everyone was trained to be able to have a conversation for making things better. This example of engaging to achieve relationship repair comes from the students at the Downtown Alternative School in Toronto. Filmmaker Roberta King visited the kindergartners from the school in the 1980s and followed their progress in resolving conflict for about 14 years. You see, when the kids at Downtown Alternative School found themselves in disagreement, they would ask two children who weren't involved in the fight to be the peacemakers. The peacemakers would lead everyone to a quiet spot, out into the hallway if they were in the classroom, or to a private corner of the playground if they were outside. Everyone sat down in a circle. And the peacemakers started by asking a series of questions. You'll see that they echo some of the deep commitments of this congregation. Yeah, that'd be perfect. I'd love that slide up. So, you'll see those in just a minute. The first question, do you both agree to solve the problem? Willingness is created when people clearly comprehend what to do and why. This is why it matters for us to clearly distinguish that no one is required to forgive. That's a personal spiritual commitment to transformation. The thing we may be obviously committed to is right actions of repair. In this situation of repair, the person who has done harm acts to improve the situation. The action can and often does have a measurable and noticeable impact. And there's the second question. I'm so grateful for Ron sharing because it demonstrated this. In the model of asking 4 questions for peace, the second question is, are you willing to listen without interrupting? This becomes an action of investment and respect. Valerie Kaur is an American and Punjabi Sikh activist, documentary, filmmaker, lawyer, educator, and faith leader. She's the founder of the Revolutionary Love Project. Kaur's debut book, See No Stranger, a memoir and manifesto of revolutionary love, was published in June 2020. Here's what she says. Deep listening is an act of surrender. We risk being changed by what we hear. When I really want to hear another person's story, I try to leave my preconceptions at the door and draw close to their telling. I'm always partially listening to the thoughts in my own head when others are speaking, so I consciously quiet my thoughts and begin to listen with my senses. Let me get a napkin. Empathy, oh, thank you. Empathy is cognitive and emotional. To inhabit another person's view of the world is to feel the world with them. But I also know that it's okay if I don't feel very much for them at all. I just need to feel safe enough to stay curious. The most critical part of listening is asking what is at stake for the other person. I try to understand what matters to them, not what I think matters. Sometimes I start to lose myself in their story. As soon as I notice that feeling, unmoored, I try to pull myself back into my body, like returning home. As Hannah Arendt says, one trains one's imagination to go visiting. When the story is done, we must return to our skin, our worldview, and notice how we have been changed by our visit. So I ask myself, what is this story demanding of me? What will I do now that I know this? What will I do? So this second movement is toward deep listening, toward empathy, and even the way Valerie described it, as visiting another's perspective and then returning to one's own. The third question in these 4 questions for peace is, do you agree to no name-calling or insults? This question allows us to reflect on the fact that when we talk about developing forgiveness like a muscle, part of what we are developing is the rigorous commitment to stop harm in its tracks and to make sure no other harm happens as much as we are able, both as people who do harm and people who are impacted by harm. We all have an interest in creating conditions under which peace can sprout and even bloom. Mature practice of this question also looks like giving consideration to our human impulse to reduce people to this mistake. This is how they are. What else could I expect? You can expect a house of infinite possibility. It also gives us the opportunity to imagine going from a mistake and harm to mutual liberation. This is from that little book called Spilling the Light. To be free, you must embrace the breadth of your own existence without apology, even if they try to take it from you. You must know not that you can do whatever you want. You are not a kudzu vine eating entire hillsides for the purpose of feeding your own lush life. You must know instead that there inside you are entire universes, milky blue, magenta, gold, expanding. But to actually be free, you must know and you must fight for the entire universe inside of everyone else. Being free is not a license, but a promise. This listening and willingness to fight for someone's best self in the sense of struggling mightily and not giving up until there is a result. What if we were a community of people who did that for one another? Listen, every imagining has its limits. But inside this question, there's mutuality and care. Standing up for each other's best selves is part of the process of building the forgiveness muscle and part of what connects us to one another. The last question might be one of the keys to everything. It is simply, do you agree to tell the truth? And that's a good question. Do we? Even when it's hard? Even when other habits grow up in its place? And there's some part of us that wants protection and wants to be justified, that says, well, how well can I know another person's truth? Maybe everyone's truth is different. Sometimes it matters to agree that the truth that we belong to one another is just as significant as the events of the day. And part of our task is to respect each other's perspectives enough to work our way through those differences. Does that make sense to you? You might be wondering why. Okay, sure. Forgiveness. between ourselves and those we encounter every day, that seems hopeful. Maybe healing, but what else is the point? In 2011, the city of Hamilton, New Zealand, spilled 90,000 liters of human waste into the Waikato River. That's about 24,000 gallons of gross. Enough to fill a good-sized swimming pool. The state government could have made the city pay a fine of up to $600,000 for polluting the river, but a group of local environmentalists didn't see how that would help the dirty Waikato. So they came up with a novel solution. Instead of a trial, they asked the government to hold a restorative justice conferencing circle. But how could the victim, the Waikato River, take part? The environmentalists had a creative solution. The president of the Waikato River Enhancement Society became the river at the circle, explaining to others how badly it had been affected by the city's negligence. City council members took the offender role since it was their job to make sure the city's waste was properly treated. The river victim and the city offenders worked out a plan to clean up the river and help restore it to a more natural state. They agreed that the city would plant trees and native plants along the riverbanks as compensation for harm done. Which is to say this: when we talk about it being a skill, when we talk about it being a muscle that we are developing, forgiveness shows us possibilities that are not obvious for solving some of humanity's biggest problems. Can we lean on that skill? Can we develop the strength of a means of building this beloved community, both within and beyond our walls? I invite us all to try. I'd like to close with these words today. Ancestry by Fred Lamont. My DNA results came in, just as I suspected. My great-great-grandfather was a monarch butterfly. Much of who I am is still wriggling under a stone. I am part larva, but part hummingbird too. There is dinosaur tar in my bone marrow. My golden hair sprang out of a meadow in Palestine. Genghis Khan is my fourth cousin, but I didn't get his dimples. My loins are loaded with banyan seeds from Sri Lanka, but I descended from Ravana, not Ram. My uncle is a mastodon. There are traces of white people in my saliva. 3.7 billion years ago, I swirled in hydrogen dust, dreaming of a planet overgrown with lingams. More recently, say 60,000 BC, I walked on hairy paws across a land bridge, joining Sweden to Botswana. I am the child of the sun and moon. I can no longer hide my heritage of raindrops and cougar scat. My mud was molded with your grandmother's tears. I was the brother who marched you to the sea and sold you. I was the merchant from Savannah and the cargo of blackness. I was the chain. Admit it. You have wings, vast and crystal, like mine. Like mine. You have sweat, dark and salty, like mine. Like mine. You have secrets silently singing in your blood, like mine. Like mine. Don't pretend that Earth is not one family. Don't pretend that we never hung from the same branch. Don't pretend we do not ripen on each other's breath. Don't pretend we didn't come here to forgive. So may we live. Too many things on the sacred desk today. I'd like to invite Lila forward. Oh, you know what? I was going to read let's see. I would like to still read it, and the reason I would like to read it is that it is one of our sources of strength. But if I read it, that means we'll be done more like 11:40. Can you do that? Should we wait till next week?
Let's wait till next week.
You're kind of mixed, huh? All right, let's just do it up. In the spirit of love and in service to our shared commitment to build an intentional, multi-generational, multicultural, multiracial, multicultural, and anti-oppressive religious community, we covenant to the blue is you, read slow and listen to your neighbor. And encourage and grow relationships with one another based on mutual understanding and respect. Work intentionally to counter oppression and prejudice among ourselves and in the world. Listen actively to the needs of others and assume best intentions. And acknowledge differences among us. Value and speak our truth and uphold the truth spoken by others in our common search for meaning. Engage in direct conversation when we have conflicts or concerns. And seek equitable solutions. Give generously of our spiritual gifts and material resources. And offer help when we can. Ask for help when we need it. That reminds me, one of the huge parts of what we talked about today is that repairing relationships is an action. And I can't know everything because we haven't been around each other very much lately because of this pandemic situation, but I need you to know, if there's something that you're thinking about that I could make amends with you, then please let me know, because I want to take those actions to repair. And you might want to make that same open-ended offer to people in your life. Okay, back to our covenant. In caring for each other and ourselves, we intend to live in this covenant to build a beloved community. And this was adopted by congregational vote March 18th, 2012. Thank you, everyone. Beautiful job.
There's my name, Lila Ibrahim. So about 10 years ago, I was in a pretty rough spot spiritually and emotionally, and it just happened that my neighbor is a Buddhist, and he was offering an intro class to Tibetan Buddhism. And I went to his class, and I learned all about Tonglen, and I learned about all sorts of things. And one of the things he talked about was your root teacher. And your root teacher is when you find a guru that you decide to tie your life to forever, and that person agrees to have you tied to their life forever. And in that moment, I thought to myself, oh, my root teacher is the First Unitarian Church of Oakland. I've been walking through these doors since I was 16. I just told my daughter last night, so 42 years ago was the first time that I walked through these doors. And if you had told me then that I'd be coming here now, I would have said you were probably crazy. I thought I'd have a much more adventurous life than I've had. But I tell you that by coming here, all of you are my teachers, right? You all are teaching me how to be more human. And this place teaches me all sorts of spiritual lessons about extending love and receiving love, about learning to sing. I didn't sing before I came here. Learning to write, learning to speak my truth. That number 4 was the hardest for me. The other 3, I'm like, oh, shit. Speak my truth. Okay, that's vulnerable. Speaking your truth, for me, super vulnerable. So thank you for being my spiritual teachers all these years. I'd say the most important spiritual lesson from this place is learning to be disappointed and return again and again and again. And I realize the flip side of being disappointed is being disappointing and being forgiven again and again and again. And that's what we do together. And so why do I give to this place? It's a place I want to exist. I want it to exist for myself, and I want it to exist for the people that come here in 100 years and are looking for a spiritual community, not an apartment to live in, not a movie theater to go to, not a restaurant, but a spiritual community. And the only way it's going to exist in 100 years is if I give to it now to keep being a spiritual community, whatever it looks like. So Rinda and I will be, giving our pledge like we always do, and making sure this is a place that's going to be here long from now, and giving our payments each month as we come to this place. So I invite the ushers to come forward and take the collection for today. Those of you that are watching on Zoom or have something handy dandy in their phone can give that way. And I think Susan's going to play us some song. Great, thanks. Join me in saying our response to the work of the church, which is weaving a tapestry of love we call community. We dedicate ourselves, and these our offerings. Amen.
Will you take a smooth, easy breath? Relax your forehead. Relax the space around your eyes. Relax your hands. We are called to love. This amazing, expansive love that some call spirit and some call God. Love calls us to openness and possibility. Love calls us to kindness and generosity. Love calls us to curiosity and wonder. Love calls us to love. So go forth, knowing the next day can be the best day, answering the call of love by asking simply, what's next? Go in peace, practice love, return in joy.